Well, folks, after 14 long years, Red Dead Redemption has finally arrived on PC. It's been a journey from the dusty consoles of 2010 to today's high-powered gaming rigs. But for years, PC players could only watch from the sidelines as console fans rode off into the sunset as John Marston. And actually, there was a lot of rumors for a long time whether it would ever come to PC because apparently some of the core game engine files were just not workable anymore. I don't know. Well, apparently that's not true, so hey ho. Now it is time to saddle up and experience the Wild West on a whole new platform. But why did it take so long? And most importantly, is it actually worth the wait? Let's take a deep dive into everything the PC release of Red Dead Redemption has to offer, and, well, more importantly, everything it's kind of lacking at the moment. First of all, let's talk about performance. PC gamers know that getting into a game on their platform isn't always as straightforward as developers would like it to be. Porting a title can go brilliantly or horrible. Just look at the GTA trilogy or Arkham Knight, with both stumbled pretty badly out of the gate onto PC. So where does Red Dead 2 sort of land within this sphere? Surprisingly, it's actually not just a quick port though. Rockstar's put a lot of work into getting this to be the best way to play the game, according to, well, sources like PC Gamer. That's their review, but we know what they think of Space Marine 2, so I don't know how seriously we can actually take this. However, it doesn't mean it's all smooth sailing because 1 ounce of touch games journalists like it. Some players are seeing a lot of performance issues, especially on lower end machines. This is a game that came out in 2010, and sure, it is now trying to be updated to the modern day, but it still should be able to work on lower end systems. And sometimes even reports of higher end systems are feeling some of this game's demand. It turns out that Red Dead Redemption on PC is fairly CPU bound. Even players with top tier processors like, Ryzen 9 7950Xs, that sort of thing, are noticing that the game maxes out their CPUs. So if you're on an older rig, you might actually struggle to get that buttery smooth experience that you're hoping for. If the game runs well on high-end PCs, but if you're used to just getting by on medium settings on your kind of mid PC, you might be in for a bit of a choppy ride. And I mean, it's expensive. Yeah, it's 40 quid. It's a lot of money for a game that's 14 years old. Now, even with some of the performance quirks, though, the game's visuals are still pretty impressive. Rockstar have sharpened the textures, enhanced the lighting, and given that beautiful western landscape the polish it deserves. The plains are still endless, the mountains are still majestic, and the sunsets still leave you breathless. Every blade of grass and every mountain vista just feels a bit richer on PC. But if that's not enough, the PC modding community is already getting kind of creative. Within days of release, we saw the first texture mods hitting the scene, and modders quickly working on ways to enhance and refine the visuals even further. Yeah, this is kind of what we expected to see. Modding is one of the biggest perks of having PC games, full stop, and actually one of the reasons that people wanted it to come onto PC. It's the biggest selling point of the platform, really. With mods, you can push the game's graphics beyond what Rockstar originally intended. There's a few ambitious things with hints at overhauls, adding entirely new content, and I don't know how exactly that's going to work in Red Dead Redemption. We know the modding scene of GTA 5 has been kind of sketchy. I mean, it's been somewhat successful, but because of their tight grasp on GTA Online, I think they're absolutely terrified, Rockstar I'm talking about, of anybody getting in the way of that. So, yeah, they are a little bit finicky with mods. But I think Red Dead Redemption, because it doesn't have the same sort of online prowess, is going to be completely different. Let's switch gears for a second, though, and talk about the main man himself, John Marston. For those who haven't experienced the story, you're in for a bit of a treat and a little bit of a cry at the end. Marston is a former outlaw trying to leave his past behind and reunite his family. But life in the Old West isn't that simple. The government has him under their thumb, forcing him back into a life he tried so hard to leave. Now, of course, it is the same story, so you do have that hero and tragedy figure all in one. That's why I think his journey resonated with a lot of people, and it is, as I mentioned, the same game, just refined a little bit more. Now, you're not just getting Red Dead Redemption. I think a lot of this is kind of flowing into why it's so expensive, because you get the full Undead Nightmare expansion that came out. It's basically zombies. The Old West overrun with undead corpses. I think your wife gets eaten at the very start. Is that a spoiler? Maybe, but it's in the first scene, so get over it. Rockstar leads into the campiness of this DLC, though, and it really does feel like a completely different game to Red Dead Redemption. And, of course, well, it came out on Halloween, so it was kind of perfect fending off hordes of zombies, rescuing towns from the brink of collapse, and even hunting down mythological creatures. It's a wild, unapologetically fun expansion. But you all know what Red Dead Redemption is like, so let's actually talk about the release. How do fans feel? Well, the feedback has been pretty mixed. Some players are, thrilled to have the game on PC, but it does feel like after years of waiting, it's kind of like, oh, we're just so happy it's here, rather than, oh, it's actually in a really great state. People love diving back into Marston's world and exploring the open plains and taking down outlaws. However, not everyone is entirely satisfied. For one, Rockstar's decision not to include major graphical updates has been a sticking point. They've never released Red Dead with 4K or ultra definition textures, which is fine, but I do think from the fans' perspective, a lot of people were expecting for this price a full remaster, at least some modern features like ray tracing or DLSS to give the game a little bit of extra shine. And yeah, so for those expecting an ultimate visual experience is better, and it does look like a game that came out later than 2010, but it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity. And I think Red Dead Redemption could have made a lot more money if they'd actually gone that way. There's also the fact that Rockstar hasn't added any really new content outside Undead Nightmare. The modding community might be able to get a few new missions and characters, so they're kind of relying on their community in order to do that, but some fans really did hope that Rockstar might throw in a few surprises, like new weapons or side missions, but unfortunately that wasn't meant to be. So why did they bring Red Dead Redemption to PC? The timing seems very curious, especially since Red Dead 2 has been available on PC for years. Oh, Rockstar stated that they wanted to give new and returning players the best way to experience the original game. And in fact, I think this is just a good way of selling the second title. Whether it's the whole truth, I mean, it's always one of these things where actually it's because there was some money to be made. And obviously, because they didn't have to add much new content, it was fairly easy to actually make that money. But for one thing's for sure, the response from the fans show that there's still a hunger for Red Dead Redemption content, even after all of this time. Rockstar's focus might actually start to lean more towards the GTA franchise at the moment, but I think this means that we will be getting a new Red Dead in the, let's be honest, far future. So is it actually worth buying? Well, if you've never played the game before, this is the best way to do it. The visuals are sharper, the controls are smoother, it's not on PS3, and the Undead Nightmare expansion adds even more bang for your buck. For PC players, this is a chance to really finally step into John Marston's boots and experience genuinely one of the greatest Western stories ever told in gaming. However, if you've already played it on console, this might not, be enough to justify the price tag. I mean, if we look at it on Steam, it's $50, £30. It's very, very expensive for the same game being released again. True, you do get Undead Nightmares, and I think that's one of the things that people are kind of okay with. It's very, very, very well received in terms of its Steam reviews, but there has been a little bit of talk about that price point. Actually, that's probably one of the main controversies and a few issues in terms of performance. So if you're really looking for something significantly visually better from the console version, I don't know if you're going to exactly get that, but if you're a diehard fan and you just want to relive it, maybe even try out some mods, I guess the PC version is still something there for you. But in conclusion, Red Dead Redemption's release on PC is kind of a moment worth celebrating because it's been such a talk of the town for the game to come out finally on PC. And now we actually do have it, which, is a day I never thought would come. So whether you're here for the story, zombies, or just to see what the hype is about, it has a lot to offer. And there's a reason it's considered one of the best games of all time. So grab your hat, load up that 6-shooter, and get ready for one heck of a ride if you do decide to play it. Because who has 40 quid these days? I don't have 40 quid.